Have you ever seen a village without electricity? Have you ever seen a city, a major city, during a blackout? The image you're seeing up on the screen is what I witnessed. My parents were medical doctors, and they would do volunteer work outside of my hometown, Tabriz, Iran, northwestern part of Iran. We would go to villages that had no electricity in them. 20 miles away from major cities, that in the city the quality of life was, in comparison, was similar to going to Athens or to Rome. You would drive 20 miles, the quality of life would drop a century or more. And the soil was so cracked that couldn't bring any harvest to the farmers. Women would die trying to give birth to their children. And this is giving you a picture of what that was that I took as an 11-year-old. As soon as they would get electricity, they could dig much deeper wells, bring water up, and that would transform everything. Access to electricity meant a jump in the quality of life and economic well-being of the society. Showing you the next picture is the very first day, a pump that my parents donated to this village, what it looked like. Again, the land was a parched land, cracked soil, nothing was growing. And here I am playing as an 11-year-old, excited by potential that electrification, rural electrification, brought to this one village. And one harvest season, right after this is what it looked like. So I decided early on that electricity and power and automation, bringing life, bringing opportunity, is critical to everything we do. Even medicine, clean water depends on electricity. My second week in America as a teenager, as a 16-year-old, going to attend high school in New York, was the New York City blackout. This is July 13th and 14th, 1977. The whole fabric of society collapsed. There were riots, more than 3,800 arrests, led to the ouster of the mayor, and Mayor Ed Koch was elected in the aftermath of this major blackout, blamed on a lightning strike. The city of 9 million was completely dark. And these are the pictures of the riots. And that evening, during sunset, the whole city was black. So in one part of the world, I saw cities or villages without electricity. On the other side, I saw amazing city without electricity and how the social fabric of it collapses. So I saw a system in need of protection and improvement. And that system critically depended on reliable electricity. In the years that followed, I worked on electrification and how to make our electric networks and infrastructure, critical infrastructure, smarter, more resilient, and more efficient. When we look globally on the entire picture of the Earth at night, you will see the networks of electrification. On top of these networks, we develop everything else. One of them is our economies. What would you expect the GDP, the wealth of nations, the propagation of wealth, where do you think those are centered around? They're centered exactly in areas that are affordable, available, and high degree of electrification. To look at this from a broader picture, as we project forward, we currently have 19 cities with 10 million or more people in them. By 2020, there are going to be 30 such cities. By 2050, 60 such megacities. Currently, there are 1.2 billion people in the world that have no access to electricity. Another 1.4 billion have inadequate access. They have outages of 4 hours or longer per day. In order to bring electricity to still assuming 40% of the population of the world has diminished access to electricity, we still need to triple the amount of generation. So when you think ahead tonight, this evening, one of the key things I want you to consider is the impact, the footprint that we develop using our energy resources and how we approach that. In particular, I want to leave you with one of the nuggets is when you look at electrification, and you look at how we have harvested our energy resources, hunter-gatherers used about 2,500 calories per day. The agrarian society, about 10,000 calories per day per person. Currently, us in the more developed parts of the world use anywhere from 50,000 calories a day. Everything we use, iPhones, iPods, computers, transportation, up to over 600,000 calories per day. However, our approach to our energy resources are very similar to hunter-gatherers. We drill a hole, exhaust the resources of that hole, move on to the next, move on to the next, move on to the next. So we need to evolve to a higher level of energy harvesting and energy utilization. In addition, if we step back and we think about environmental security, economic security, and national security, at the nexus of all three is energy security. There are no silver bullets, but there are many innovation bullets, and I'm going to share some of them with you. In particular, it is noteworthy that in 2000, a blue ribbon panel at the National Academy of Engineering ranked the top 20 greatest achievements of the 20th century. You would have expected television, rapid transportation, internet, or man going to the moon to be, especially because Neil Armstrong was the chair of this Blue Ribbon Commission. But what do you think they selected? Networks of electrification. Without the grid, we could have not done any of the above. And we always take it for granted. And it's the whole system of generation to the end use, to the delivery. The middle part is the transmission and distribution. This amazing system, this marvel of engineering, is under a lot of stress. The outages cost our economy in the United States somewhere between $80 billion a year to $187 billion a year. In an average year, it cost us about $150 billion a year in spoilage, lost productivity, and other economic impacts. When we look ahead for the next 10, 20, 30 years, what we currently have in North America is 450,000 miles of 100,000 volts and higher, what we call 100 kV or higher, which is the backbone. As we look ahead and we think about where the resources are for energy security, for environmental security, for economic security, to meet the three objectives, we are going to need a stronger and smarter grid. What do I mean by stronger grid? The 450,000 miles of high voltage lines need to be strengthened by adding another 9%, about 42,000 miles, to bring electrons from homegrown sources such as wind, solar, geothermal, biomass, what you're seeing behind me on the map. This assessment has been done by the Department of Energy, by my former organization, the Electric Power Research Institute. This would enable integration of about 40% of energy coming from wind, and introduces the most efficient carrier of energy, by the way. What do you think it is? Is it hydrogen? Is it biofuels? Is it liquid fuels? Or are they electrons? The most efficient carrier of energy. Electrons are the most efficient carrier of energy. That's why we need this electrification, to bring it from where the sources are to where the demands are. And the high voltage transmission, by the way, is 97% efficient. 97% efficiency, so Tesla's original dream was correct. So how do you make it smarter? What's the overlay of sensors, communication, ways to make the system more resilient and smarter? I'm going to share with you a quick background of an F-15 fighter plane that I had the privilege of working on. So in 1983, Captain Zivi, an Israeli pilot, was doing air combat maneuvers against an F-4, a Phantom. Both aircraft were built by McDonnell Douglas, now Boeing Phantom Works in St. Louis. So they had a middle collision. Captain Zivi lost about 90% of his right wing. He is a great pilot. He landed it using engine thrust. You have seen it in movies, thrust vectoring. He landed at twice the nominal landing speed of an F-15. He turned the aircraft into a missile. And by doing that, he could control the aircraft. Usually when a collision of this type happens, you lose symmetry, so you cannot glide the aircraft. And the aircraft flips and falls like a rock. But here, the gentleman was really, really fast and really lucky, because we tested it, put it through wind tunnel test in St. Louis, and found out he had a very narrow slice of stability, stable flight envelope in which he could control the aircraft. So when that happened, he landed the aircraft. There are no rear view mirrors in an F-15. He looked to his right and he said, "Holy cow." I had no idea there was this much damage. Otherwise, I would have done what the F-4 pilots did, and I would have parachuted to safety without saving the aircraft. But when a human being, one human being, makes such a difference in such a complex system, guess what people ask? If a human being can do it, can you develop an automatic system that quickly senses what's going on, reconfigures the system, and saves commercial passenger as well as fighter planes? So the good news is, NASA and McDonnell Douglas funded the work. I had the privilege of being a principal investigator on this, and it funded 2 of my doctoral students and 2 master's students. After 5 years, we developed a system that could quickly identify what's going on within a fraction of a second and compensate for the damage. We never cut the wing off of an F-15, but we did 15 actual flight tests in NASA Dryden, Southern California, including complete hydraulic failure. When you lose hydraulic, you lose the ability to control the aircraft. And here is a lateral stick input with complete hydraulic failure, and the red line is showing you how he controlled it. We applied the same principle to power grids, and to not power grids, fuel supply, power grids, and telecom network on top of them, layers of infrastructure. We modeled different parts of the nation infrastructure, and a quick pop quiz for you. What's the best way, if you think of the brown boxes, a portion of the infrastructure that we have mathematical models for, what's the best way to control it? Is it a Soviet model, which is the centralized K in the middle, that monitors everything, it's a bird's eye view and does everything? Or is it coordinated among the different control or automation entities, or is it totally decentralized? What do you think is the best way to control the system? It's a false question. It's actually all 3. At the lowest level, very fast, and the motivation for this I did for the Western United States over 960,000 simulations to evolve this architecture. And for the eastern part of the United States, over 1.6 million, because it's tightly coupled, and you need to find a way to decipher what's going on in the system. The architecture that emerged has 3 layers. At the lowest level, it's really, really fast, in the order of fraction of a second. Mid-layer does a lot of coordination. It's in the order of hundreds of milliseconds to a few seconds. Top level, that does forecasting, strategically knowing what's coming, is actually centralized. So whenever I present this, and there's a neuroscientist in the room, said, "Massoud, this is the same way the human brain operates. At the lowest, the earliest part of the brain, the way it was evolved, it is the reptilian brain. It's really quick, fast reaction. Mid-level of the brain, the mammalian brain, that all mammals have that layer, is more emotions and coordination and so on. The top level, the neocortex, the Spock brain, is very logical and strategic and so on. So we didn't know this. It came out of repeated simulations and subjecting systems to adversity. Does this work? Here is a non-sensitive example of it. This is the Western United States. On the lower left-hand side, you're seeing Southern California. On the top, you're seeing Pacific Northwest and a little bit of Canada. What if the lines from Arizona to California are taken out with a dirty bomb? So you cannot fix it really quickly. Our system forms 2 self-sustaining islands. And what it does, without our system, frequency, which is like pulse of a human being, pulse of a patient, keeps going down, collapses, and leads to blackout, major blackout. With our system, you see a few flickers, but quickly isolated, quickly reconfigured, adaptation is kicked in, and it reconfigures the system and restores frequency back. In less than 3.5 seconds, similar to the fighter plane, identical, except in fighter plane it was one. Later on, I applied it to squadron of aircraft. Then for the Air Force, I applied it to the entire logistics systems for the Department of Defense. That was back in the 90s. Late 90s and early part of this past decade, applied it to layers of infrastructure. And that's the result we are getting. Creating smarts and human brain-like to automate. Exactly the same, sensing, adaptation, and improvement and learning. So what's smart grid? You will read many different definitions, but there's a unified vision. Sensors that are the red dots connected by a communication fabric that enables this rapid restoration to do 4 things. Give consumers two-way communication and choice, as well as enhance reliability of the system, increase the overall system efficiency, and enable integration of renewables and electrification of transportation. What are some pathways forward to do this? I give you one nugget that there are several things, but I give you one here close to home at University of Minnesota. For Morris, that is a sustainable community, we did assessment. As you may know, Morris is about 150 miles northwest of Minneapolis on the western edge of the state, and it already has 2 wind turbines integrated. These wind turbines not only reduce the amount of electricity bought from outside, but reduce the carbon footprint. Yellow line is the carbon footprint that has gone carbon negative now, enabled by this overlay of integration of smarts and new devices into the system. So 68% of people surveyed in our nation had no idea what smart grid is. They see many red lights, they see many yellow lights, but there are some green lights. The red light is cost. Cost of the overlay of smart grid is $17 to $24 billion a year for 20 years. About 340 to 480 billion total on a $1.2 trillion infrastructure. The benefits of that are huge. You will save, overall you will save about $49 billion in outages. You will save about 5% improved system efficiency. You will also reduce emissions by 12 to 18% according to Electric Power Research Institute and Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. It's huge. So the costs are very little compared to the benefits we get out of this system. Allow me to wrap up by a pop quiz. How much do you think, how many of you tweet? How much does your tweet use? Not just our device, but the whole system. The whole system. The communication, the mobile platforms that we have, the wireless system, the server farms, and so on. The whole system uses 0.025 watt hours. In 2011, we averaged about 1 billion tweets per week. You multiply them, it's 2.5 large nuclear power plants just to keep our tweeting habit going. And this year, we are up to 1.7 billion tweets per week. So it has increased. So as you look ahead, there are many opportunities. And electricity, it improving quality of life, innovations in electricity created a tool maker's dream. The precision, the applications we use it for in our manufacturing, in our room right now, and in everything we use is amazing precision. And there are many innovations coming out of it, such as smarter systems, devices that we have built to power progress, to power our nation's economy. When you look at what else is possible, I want to ask you a question. This suite of technologies, what other benefits, what other improvements, as you drive home tonight, during the reception, before you drive home, what new things can we bring by this suite of technologies, the overlay of devices that enable a more resilient, smarter, more secure, more reliable system? Thank you.